everybody, I'm Joey Paul and I'm an indie author, and welcome back to my channel. I write young adult fiction across a variety of genres, and if you think that might interest you, then think about subscribing below. So today, this video has been coming for a while. I put a poll up on Twitter when I first thought of the idea, whether people wanted me to do a video on things like hustle culture, and the results were a astounding yes. I didn't get many votes, but I got enough to know that this was a video that people wanted me to do. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to sit down and have an informal chat with you, basically about hustle culture, what it means, and why I struggle to keep up with it, and why I think it's something that we all need to be thinking about. So just a few caveats. This is obviously based on my opinion and my experience and all of that, and it may not be something that matches your experience or your circumstances, and that's completely okay. Everybody is different, everybody approaches this working life, this indie life differently, and that's okay. You know, we're all different, we all have different needs and expectations, and that's cool. The other thing you need to know is that I am physically disabled with several chronic conditions. I'm in a wheelchair full time, and so for me, hustle culture is going to look a lot different than it is for somebody who is able-bodied and working another job or something else like that, because I am a writer full-time, even if it doesn't pay me full-time. So basically, let's break it down to the basics. What is hustle culture? It's this idea that we should always be on the go, that we should always be productive, that our productivity is therefore tied to our worth, and that as long as we're being productive and making money and doing this and that and the other, then we're okay, and that's what society looks at us about. Personally, I've always struggled with the idea of hustle culture because I don't do much work. Like, I say it like that, it sounds like I basically say, I don't do anything with my day. I do a lot of work, I work hard, but I don't do a lot of work spread over time. Still not explaining it right. My day, my work day, is usually about an hour or two. And then from there, I go and rest for the rest of the day because, like I said, chronically ill and someone that needs to have a lot of rest and breaks and all the rest of it. This is also why I couldn't work a conventional job, because going to my boss and saying, hey, I've done an hour's work and I'm going to go home and sleep, it wouldn't go down well. Strange thing about that. So the idea that because I want to make it in this world, that I therefore have to constantly be on the hustle looking for new things to do, new ways to stretch myself, new ways to make money and all the rest of it, just doesn't appeal to me. It never has. I like writing, I like releasing books, I like the things that come from that, and I do work hard. I just don't work all the time, and I don't have a side hustle, I don't have side projects that are making me money, and maybe that's somewhere where I'm failing as such, but I don't generally buy into this whole society's idea that therefore your productivity and how much money you make determines your worth in society. I just don't buy that, never have. I don't see it as a healthy mindset, and I don't see it as something that I should aspire to be, especially as somebody who is disabled and seen as somewhat less than because I can't be productive in a normal job and all of that. Hustle culture is something where I feel like a lot of people probably put it better than I have and will continue to put it better than I have. I'm a writer, but I'm not always brilliant with words, but I feel like it's something where we focus too much on how much someone's putting in, and we ignore the mental health side effects of being on the go constantly. The reason this topic came up was because I pulled the release for this year. I usually release 2 books a year, and when it came to sending the second book to the developmental editor, I decided to not go ahead with it and to take the rest of the year off and start again in April 2022. So we're now into July, and I'm not regretting that decision at all. I needed the break, I needed the time off, and while it may have an impact on my sales and it may have an impact on my visibility, I don't see it as a bad thing. But a lot of the time there's this pressure, this go, go, go mentality that if you're not releasing all the time, or you're not writing all the time, or you're not being productive all the time, that therefore you're not valid. And I just, again, I don't buy into that. I never have, I never will. I don't see this whole idea of how we have to be on the go all the time, otherwise we're not doing good enough. I feel like it feeds into bad mental health, and it feeds into making people feel like crap for no reason, because at the end of the day, life has an impact. there are things that you can't account for, like if you get sick, or if someone you know gets sick, or if there's a death in the family, or an illness in the family, or another commitment, or whatever. There are so many different things that can pull you away from your timeline as such. It feels like having this static, rigid idea that you must be on the go at all times and you must be hustling to find the next paycheck as such just doesn't work for me, and it never has. Hi Torty, was that you screaming? My way of working has always been to keep my nose to the grindstone, to do my chapters every month, to do my words every month, and in some way I guess it sounds like, or it feels like maybe I buy into that whole idea that you have to be on the move, otherwise you're not valid. And I've said it before on my channel, and I will say it again, I don't see that your productivity determines your worth. I just don't. I never have. I have in the past maybe bought into that unhealthy mindset for a period, but as I've got more mentally healthy, as I've seen therapists, as I've dealt with my mental health issues, I've realised that you don't have to always be on the go to be valid, and you don't have to always be looking for this side project or this side project, and that you have to always be working and productive to be seen as valid. And I just think it's a really unhealthy way to approach things, especially as somebody who's disabled and has chronic illness that causes things like chronic fatigue and chronic pain and stuff like that. So I have days when I cannot do stuff, and there's nothing I can do about it. I can hustle all I want. At the end of the day, all I'm going to do is put myself in a flare and end up sicker than I was before, and then have to take more time off. So it doesn't, I don't get it. But the reason I think that hustle culture can be toxic is that it's this focus on productivity equals worth, and I think when you tie those two things together, you end up with a very unhealthy mindset of that because you didn't write 50,000 words this month, that therefore you suck and you fail and all the rest of it. I don't mean don't have goals. I just, I have goals. I talk about them on my channel all the time, and I set goals yearly, monthly, bi-monthly, weekly, and stuff like that. But I guess for me, the unhealthy side of things is when you set goals that you know that you're going to have to overextend yourself to complete. And there are some people who feel that that's the best way to set goals for them, and it works for them, and more power to them. But I think generally overall it's not something we should aspire to be. It's not something we should aspire to be where we're saying you have to work yourself into illness to be valid. That just doesn't make sense to me. That said, there are ways of doing side hustles, there are ways of doing passive income that don't generally have a negative effect on your mental health. And like I said at the beginning of the video, this all depends for different people. Like for some people it's going to be where it's always going to be a bad thing, it's always going to be a toxic thing, and for some people it's not. And that's just the joy of the human condition. No one size fits all, and that's okay, But for me, when I made that decision not to publish a second book this year, I really had to kind of fight the idea that because I wasn't pushing myself to work, that I was somehow letting the side down, or that I was somehow letting myself down. And it was really kind of hard to wrestle with that choice, and wrestle with the idea that it's okay to take that break, and for that break to be as long or as short as I need it to be. I set it to be a year, and so far, like I said, we're into July, and I'm not regretting it at all. I basically am very much loving the extra free time I have, the more time I have to take more self-care days, and the time I have to get that manuscript in shape so that when I do go to the developmental editor in April 2022, I'm not going to be sitting there thinking, I wish I'd spent more time on this. It gives me more time to deal with beta readers, sensitivity readers, revise another project. And while I am still being productive, I don't feel that same kind of need to hustle and all the rest of it. And I guess for me, hustle culture has been both a positive thing and a negative thing. It's a positive thing in the fact that there are people out there making it as a full-time writer that wouldn't have if they didn't have those side projects and stuff like that, and for them that's a great thing, and I'm glad it works for them and all the rest of it. But it's a bad thing in the fact that it kind of implies that if you're not doing it that way, you're somehow doing it wrong, and I don't agree with that. So I'm not trying to call anyone out with this. Like I said at the beginning, everybody has a different way of doing things, and that's okay. But for me personally, I just feel like hustle culture can be kind of toxic, and I don't think it's something that we should all aspire to be a part of and to do. I think you have to take your own personal situation into account and your own personal limits and all the rest of it, and make that choice for yourself. But the idea that we should all be basically hustling 24/7 is just toxic. It is. It just makes you feel less than, because if you can't do that, then somehow you're not doing it right. You're not doing adulting right. And as someone who struggles to adult, most of the time I can assure you you can't do adulting wrong. It's very hard to do it wrong. So yeah, those are my thoughts on hustle culture. Those are my thoughts on what it means, what I feel about it, and where I personally fall into that. Like I said, you know, people can do it how they want to do it, and I'm not going to sit there and tell them they're wrong. I just mean for me personally, and I know for other writers in the community, those I've spoken to, it feels very kind of like, use that word again, it feels very toxic, and I wanted to talk about it. So what do you think about hustle culture? Do you feel like being on the go all the time is the best way to get things done? Do you have a side hustle that works for you? Do you find that it helps you stay productive and stay motivated? I really do want to know. So if you've got any of those answers, let me know in the comments down below. So that's all I've got time for today. If you want to support my channel, you can comment, like, or subscribe. I post new videos on Thursdays. You can find me all over social media, and my books are available everywhere. And don't forget to pick up Lights Off, the third in the Lights Out trilogy. It's a YA dystopian, all the links for which are listed below. Thanks for watching, and remember to keep writing. Bye.